Hey everyone. Throwaway account because some friends lurk here and am not ready for this to blow up in my real life. My wife L30 for F and I 36 meters have been together for almost 9 years, married for 6. For most of that time, I thought we had a solid thing going. Not perfect, of course, no couple is, but stable. Predictable in a comfortable way. We had our routines. Friday takeout, Saturday hikes, lazy Sunday mornings with coffee and newspapers spread everywhere. But a few months ago, the vibe shifted. It wasn't one big thing, just a bunch of little things piling up in the back of my mind. She started snapping at me over the tiniest stuff, like leaving a spoon in the sink or forgetting to buy oat milk. She had this sharpness to her tone I'd never really heard directed at me before. At first, I chalked it up to work stress because her job has always been demanding. Then came the secrets. Her phone suddenly became welded to her hand. She'd tilt the screen away when I walked by, and she started putting a passcode on apps. So, the weirdness didn't just stay weird. It escalated. Elle started going out with co-workers more often. At first it was once a week, then twice, then suddenly 3 or 4 nights she'd come home late, smelling like some floral perfume she never used to wear. And before anyone asks, no, she never let me meet these supposed co-workers, even though she used to drag me to every boring office gathering. When I'd ask how her night went, she'd either brush me off with a sarcastic, "Why do you care?" or she'd go on these long, rambling explanations that somehow never actually explained anything. Always super defensive, always ready to twist the conversation into how I was being clingy or controlling. Meanwhile, at home, she stopped engaging. No inside jokes, no random hugs, barely even eye contact. She'd just scroll her phone, smirking at messages she'd hide the second I got within 3 feet. At this point, even I couldn't pretend something wasn't seriously off. I felt like I was living with a stranger, a hostile, impatient stranger. The proof I kept telling myself didn't exist practically fell into my lap one random Tuesday. Elle was rushing out the door for one of her team outings, and in her flurry of grabbing her keys, lip gloss, and that stupid tiny purse she never used before, she accidentally left her phone charging on the kitchen counter. This never happened anymore. Her phone was basically her second spine. I didn't go looking for anything. I swear I didn't. I just noticed the screen light up with a notification. Not even a full message. Just a preview banner. It said, "Can't wait to see you tonight. Same place." Then a winky face. My stomach dropped so fast I actually felt dizzy. And the sender's name? A man's name. Someone I'd never heard her mention. Not once. I froze. My hands were shaking. I didn't even unlock the phone. I didn't need to. The preview told me everything my brain had been fighting for months. She came back in a minute later, swearing under her breath because she'd forgotten the phone, snatched it off the counter without even noticing the look on my face, gave me this annoying, tight-lipped smile like I had inconvenienced her, and said, "Don't wait up." And then she left. I just stood there, staring at the closed door, feeling like the air had been punched out of my lungs. That was the moment. After she walked out, I just stood in the kitchen for a long time, replaying every weird moment from the last few months. It was like suddenly all the puzzle pieces snapped together, and the picture they formed made me sick. The new perfume, the sudden nights out, the secretive phone habits, the random bursts of irritation like I was somehow ruining her life just by breathing the same air, and the lies. So many stupid and necessary lies. Like the time she said she was working late but came home with her hair curled, even though she left the house with it straight. Or when she forgot her jacket in her co-worker's car, even though it was the middle of June and she hadn't brought a jacket anywhere in months. I had been gaslighting myself harder than she ever could. I kept trying to find reasonable explanations, because that's what you do when you love someone and you still think there's a chance. You're imagining things. You give them every benefit of every doubt, even when they've burned through all their credits. But now there was a message. A literal receipt, something undeniable. That night, I couldn't sit still. I paced the living room, checked the driveway every hour even though I knew she wouldn't be back until late. I kept trying to convince myself there had to be some innocent explanation. But the more I thought about it, the more obvious it all became. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. I wasn't overreacting. She was cheating. And the worst part, deep down, I knew this wasn't the first time I'd been lied to. It was just the first time I couldn't pretend anymore. She came home around 1:30 a.m., the usual late time that had become her new routine. I was sitting on the couch in the dark, not intentionally dramatic, just exhausted and unable to pretend to sleep. The front door clicked and she stumbled in a little, heels clacking too loudly for someone who claimed she had been just hanging out at a bar with co-workers. She froze when she saw me sitting there. "Why are you up?" she asked, her tone already edged with irritation, like I'd somehow broken a rule by existing outside the bedroom. "I saw a message," I said. My voice came out calmer than I felt. "From a guy on your phone earlier." That's when she went into performance mode. She rolled her eyes so hard I swear she tried to push them out of her skull. "Oh my God, are we really doing this right now? You're being ridiculous." "Who is he?" I asked. "And don't say a co-worker. You've never mentioned him." She tossed her purse onto the table and crossed her arms. "Wow. Snooping through my phone now? Seriously? I can't have any privacy." "I didn't snoop. It popped up." "Well, then you shouldn't have looked," she snapped. "It was probably a joke, or you misread it. Or maybe it was someone else's message. You always assume the worst." She layered lie on lie like she thought stacking them high enough would make. Once the anger hit, it was like a switch flipped in my brain. All the months I'd spent tiptoeing around her mood swings, swallowing my doubts, pretending everything was fine. It all just stopped. I said, "I'm not stupid. I know what I saw." She finally stopped pacing and turned to look at me, arms crossed so tightly it looked painful. Her jaw was clenched, eyes narrowed, like I was the one who had betrayed her. "You're unbelievable," she said. "You always jump to conclusions. You always make everything about you. I can't even have a conversation without you turning it into some." "Stop," I cut in. "Just stop lying, please." That's when her whole posture changed. Shoulders stiff, chin up. That look she gets when she's about to double down instead of backing off. "You're paranoid," she said. "You've been paranoid for months. I can't keep reassuring you every time you invent a problem." Invent a problem. That phrase hit me like a slap, because I realized she wasn't even trying to come up with a convincing lie anymore. She was trying to rewrite reality. Like if she said it harshly enough, confidently enough, I'd eat out my own memory and ignore the text I literally saw with my own eyes. And maybe before that night, I would've. But something in me was done bending. I stood up and she flinched. Not like I scared her physically, but like she hadn't expected me to match her energy. "I'm not inventing anything," I said. "You're hiding something, and you know it." She rolled her eyes, scoffed, grabbed her phone like it was some lifeline. "I'm going to bed. I'm not doing this with you. Not when you're being psycho, paranoid, ridiculous, dramatic." The next morning was weirdly normal, like nauseatingly normal. She acted like nothing happened, humming while making coffee, scrolling her phone, even asking if I wanted anything from the store later. It was the kind of fake calm that makes your skin crawl, like watching someone pretend to be human. I barely slept, so I just sat there staring at her, wondering how someone could lie so effortlessly and then wake up cheerful. She didn't even mention the fight. Not one word. It was like she'd deleted the whole thing from her internal history, and maybe she thought I'd do the same. Maybe she was counting on it. But once you see the crack, you can't unsee it. You start noticing everything, and I mean everything. That morning, while she was in the shower, I walked past the laundry basket, something I hadn't touched in weeks, because she'd started insisting on doing her own laundry separately to keep things organized. But I noticed a shirt of hers crumpled on top, a blouse she didn't wear often. The collar smelled like cologne, not mine. It wasn't subtle either. This wasn't a maybe she brushed against someone's scent. This was close contact. The smell practically sucker punched me. I felt this wave of heat rise up my neck. Like anger and humiliation and heartbreak were all fighting to get out at once. I sat on the edge of the bed with that blouse in my hands, shaking so badly I almost tore the buttons off. When she came out of the bathroom, towel in her hair, she froze for half a second when she saw me holding it. Just a flicker in her eyes, but it was enough. A microsecond of shit. Then the mask snapped back on. "What are you doing?" she asked, voice flat, annoyed. I held up the blouse. By that evening, I couldn't take it anymore. Every time she wasn't home, my mind ran 1,000 miles an hour, imagining every possible scenario, each one worse than the last. I felt like I was trapped in some psychological horror movie where the villain smiled at me every time I blinked. When she finally came back, I didn't wait for her mood to dictate the conversation. I grabbed her as she set her purse down. Literally, I said, "We need to talk now." She groaned dramatically, rolling her eyes so hard it made my blood boil. "Oh, God, can we not do this tonight?" "I'm tired." "No, not tonight," I said. "You've been lying to me for months. I saw the messages. I know you're seeing someone else." Her face went white for half a second before she switched gears. She leaned back, hands on her hips, voice dripping with that patented sarcasm. "Oh, wow, look at you, detective. Maybe you should get a hobby instead of spying on me all the time. Seriously, this is so pathetic." I slammed my hand on the table. "Stop lying. Just admit it." She laughed, not a little nervous laugh, not a guilty laugh, a full-on, mocking laugh. "Admit what?" "That I'm living my life, that I have friends." "You're insane." I could feel my chest tightening. After that confrontation, everything hit me at once. I felt like I'd been shoved off a cliff and was falling through every emotion imaginable. Anger, betrayal, disbelief, sadness. My chest hurt, my head hurt, my stomach felt like it had been hollowed out. I couldn't focus, couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I kept replaying her words, her smirks, the way she had denied everything so casually, like I was the problem. I remember sitting on the couch the next morning, staring at the wall, feeling like the life I'd built, 9 years, 6 of them married, had just been erased in a few hours. I kept thinking about all the small moments I'd ignored. The nights she came home late, the random laughter at her phone, the sudden irritability. The lies so thin they almost looked like truth. I was angry at her, furious. But underneath it all was this aching sadness, like I'd lost someone I thought I knew, because I did know her, or at least I thought I did. And now I didn't. I cried in ways I didn't know I could. Not in front of anyone, just alone, shaking, hot tears rolling down my face. Part of me wanted to scream, another part wanted to disappear. But mixed in with all that pain was a small spark of clarity. I realized I had to stop questioning myself. I had proof, I had the reality staring me in the face. And even though it hurt more than anything I'd ever experienced, that clarity became the first step toward figuring out what I needed to do next. After days of pacing, sleepless nights, and endless mental replays of her lies, I finally hit a breaking point. I couldn't keep living in this limbo, constantly guessing, doubting myself, walking on eggshells. The truth was out, and now it was time to make a decision. I sat her down one evening, when she was sulking on the couch like I'd personally ruined her life. I told her, calmly but firmly, we need to figure out what's happening with us. This cheating, the lies, it can't continue. I can't continue. Of course, she immediately rolled her eyes, crossed her arms, and said, "Wow, so dramatic. You're really overreacting. Maybe you should get therapy or just chill." That was classic L. Deflect, deny, make me feel like I was the problem. But this time, I didn't let it shake me. I laid it all out, the messages, the cologne on her clothes, the pattern of late nights, the constant secrecy. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't begging. I was stating facts. And finally, she hesitated. Not because she wanted to admit it, but because she knew I knew. She said some vague, messy half-excuse about loneliness and connection at work, but it was clear she had been caught. At that moment, I realized something crucial. I didn't have to The days that followed were surreal. Elle acted like nothing had changed, texting casually, leaving notes, even making small jokes at the dinner table, but I had already built a wall around myself, one she couldn't penetrate with her usual mix of charm and lies. I started sleeping in the guest room. I stopped sharing the little parts of my day with her. Every time she tried to start a conversation about normal life stuff, I could barely respond without feeling the bitter punch of betrayal. The house felt both familiar and alien, like I was living in someone else's life. And she was still bitchy, still defensive, still twisting every word I said. Every time I asked her to explain where she was, who she was with, or why things didn't add up, she got snappy. "Oh my God, you're so controlling. I can't believe you don't trust me. You're making this way bigger than it is. Why do you have to ruin everything?" It was exhausting. Emotional whiplash every single day. One moment I was furious, the next I was heartbroken, then frustrated, then numb. I realized that even though I knew she was cheating, she still had power over my emotions. And part of me was terrified that if I let her, she could drag me back into confusion, doubt, and guilt. So I created. A week into to this self-imposed distance, Elle crossed a line I couldn't ignore. I came home early from work one evening. Wanted to surprise her with dinner, hoping maybe we could talk like normal adults for 5 minutes. I walked in, and the moment I opened the door, I saw him, the guy from the messages, sitting on our couch, laughing, like he belonged there. I froze. My brain refused to process it. She didn't even flinch. She just waved at me casually, like she was introducing a guest. "Oh, hey, didn't know you'd be home early." My hands went icy. My chest tightened. My voice shook. "What the hell is this?" She leaned back, smirked, and said, "We're just hanging out." "Chill. Just hanging out? In my house? With my husband?" I shouted, more at myself than her. He got up awkwardly, mumbling something about leaving. She didn't stop him. She just rolled her eyes at me like I was the ridiculous one for being upset. That's when I realized I didn't need to second-guess anything anymore. The lies, the sneaky texts, the smirk-filled evasions, it all culminated right there. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't loneliness. This was deliberate. I finally felt a terrifying, liberating clarity. Whatever attachment I had left, whatever hope I'd been clinging to, it was gone. After that day, I made a decision I should have made the moment I saw the first message. I couldn't stay in a marriage where trust was completely shattered, and where the other person treated me like I was invisible or insane for noticing the truth. I told Elle clearly and without drama, I can't do this anymore. I can't live with lies, with betrayal, with someone who refuses to even acknowledge reality. I'm leaving. Of course, she didn't react like a normal person. She immediately turned bitchy, defensive, and insulting. "Fine," she snapped. "Go ahead. Be dramatic. See if anyone cares." She tried to spin it like I was the crazy one walking away from a perfectly fine marriage. The classic Elle move. I didn't argue. I packed my essentials that evening and stayed with a friend for a few nights, letting the adrenaline and anger carry me through the first terrifying hours of separation. It was painful, heart-wrenching. I hated the idea of leaving the home we built together, the routines we shared, even some of the good memories. But every time I pictured staying, I could hear her smirk, see the winks, feel the coldness in her eyes. Staying would have been a slow, tortuous death of my self-respect. Walking away was like ripping a bandage off slowly, painful, bloody, and yet freeing. The first few weeks alone were brutal. I kept replaying everything in my mind, questioning if I missed signs, if I could have done something differently, if I was somehow to blame. Spoiler, I wasn't. I cried. I drank too much coffee. I took long walks at night, just trying to escape my own thoughts. Every little sound from the house next door made me flinch. The thought that she could still be there with him, laughing, smirking, lying. It was relentless. But slowly, I started reclaiming pieces of myself. I spent evenings reading, working out, reconnecting with friends I'd neglected, and even laughing at things that had felt impossible just a month ago. I realized how much of myself I had given away, how much I had bent and twisted to make her comfortable, to keep the illusion alive. The anger softened into a steady, cold clarity. I wasn't going to let her ruin my life or my happiness. I could mourn the relationship, sure, but I wasn't going to let her keep me hostage emotionally. The betrayal left scars, no doubt, but it also left lessons about boundaries, self-respect, and the danger of ignoring red flags. It's been a few months since I finally walked away. I won't lie. Some days are harder than others. Memories hit unexpectedly, and part of me mourns what I thought we had. But most days, I feel lighter, freer, like I can breathe again. I've learned a few things I want to share in case anyone else reading this is in a similar hell. Trust your instincts. That little gut feeling you ignore, it's usually right. Don't let anyone gaslight you into doubting yourself. Evidence matters. I didn't have to rely on suspicion alone. Having proof gave me clarity, courage, and the ability to act decisively. Distance is crucial. When someone lies and manipulates you, stepping back is cowardice. It's self-preservation. You can survive betrayal. It's excruciating, but life goes on. And you can come out stronger, more aware, and more protective of your own happiness. Don't let them rewrite reality. Some people, like my ex, will try to make you question your own memory and sanity. Stay anchored in the facts. And not sure what the future holds, Maybe he'll love again, maybe he'll be single for a while. But I know one thing for certain. He'll never let someone treat me like I'm optional, invisible, or stupid. To anyone out there going through this, it hurts, it feels impossible, but you can survive it, and one day, you'll realize that walking away was the best choice you ever made. Thank you for listening to my story. Click the like button, subscribe to this channel, and have a good day, everyone.